you need to be consistent. I would not recommend deciding I'm going to do Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. People who Google you and maybe your Facebook page comes up and the last time you posted was 1998, they're going to just assume that your practice is closed.
All dentists know the common career paths, but how do you know which path is right for you, and are there other options out there?
On this podcast, we will be chatting with industry experts. We want to bring you the knowledge and resources you need to take your career to the next level and break down those industry secrets interview by interview.
We are here to ignite a revolution in the dental landscape
and help you, the dentist, build the career you have always wanted.
I'm Dr. Cassidy Reeder.
I'm Carter Frank.
And welcome to the Revolution Dentistry Podcast.
I'm Carter Frank here with Cassidy Reeder. This is the Revolution Dentistry Podcast, where we help you with strategies to build lasting success for yourself and for your family. Today we have a very special guest, welcoming Allison Taylor, a marketing expert with over a decade of experience dedicated to helping businesses thrive. With a strong passion for creating effective marketing strategies, Allison excels in driving growth and enhancing patient engagement for dental practices. As a leader in digital marketing, Allison is proficient in developing comprehensive marketing campaigns that resonate with patients and create tangible results. Her expertise in SEO, SEM, and paid social media advertising empowers dental practices to optimize their online presence, attract new patients, and improve overall performance. Allison's collaborative approach ensures that marketing efforts align with business goals, allowing practices to maximize their resources and achieve impressive ROIs. Join us as we explore her insights on leveraging innovative marketing strategies to elevate dental practices and enhance patient experiences. Welcome to the podcast, Allison. Super excited to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are flattered that you would join us today. We know that you're very busy. I just wanted to start out by asking you a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the digital marketing space?
Do you really want to know? Okay, so we have to take a journey, okay?
Ready, I'm ready.
A million years ago, I went to culinary school because I wanted to create things. And
Culinary, okay.
Culinary school, of all things. And you're going to be
Love
like,
it.
what? How does that relate? I promise it does. And I realized very, very quickly that being in the kitchen was not conducive for family, you were always working when everybody else was having fun. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a little bit, and I found myself as a girl with a new diploma in a food distribution company who wanted to reach out to the public. They were selling their food not just to restaurants, but to the general consumer. So I realized that I really liked what I was doing there. I landed them a spot on the Food Network. This was my first job, y'all. Like the Food Network.
Food Network.
I built an app. I did all of these things, and I was like, "Wow, I am not bad at this." And I'm fairly new, and I was totally green. I had not been beaten down by the world yet, so I was learning a lot of different things along the way. And but I quickly realized that marketing was a passion of mine. Mm-hmm. So I told you it was going to be a journey, and that's it.
It's a great roundabout way to get into it. I feel like it happens that way often for a lot of people, like a lot of people don't know exactly what their passion or drive is until they get out there and realize, dang, it might not be culinary after all. And then you work through it to figure out where you really belong. And, we're so happy that, you found out what you're passionate about, because we wouldn't have you here otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's crazy. From culinary to a marketing expert, that's certainly one of the more bizarre stories we've had on the podcast.
I'm nothing if not bizarre. But I'll say, look, here's the thing. I learned a lot of what I don't want to represent and what I do want to represent along the way. I've had many stops, and I know we'll get there, but there's something about having to, in the moment, get your feet wet and get your hands dirty quickly to figure out the solution to the problem that you're presented with. And I learned that I excelled at it.
I love that. Love that.
So to jump into our second question, can you explain the different online marketing channels that dentists should prioritize and how each can contribute to practice growth?
Sure. First and foremost, if you do not have a Google My Business profile, you need to claim it. If you have a
Oh,
property that you are seeing patients in, you need to raise your hand and say, hey, Google, I own this property.
wow.
And if you don't know what Google My Business is, when you type in the name of the practice on the sidebar, you'll see it's a secondary box and it'll have the name of the practice, usually a picture. And then there's a button that says, I own this business, and you want to click it. And
Wow.
it is possible that somebody else has claimed it, but you can still take ownership of it. That becomes, number one, a place on the internet that Google endorses, and we always want to have Google's endorsement.
Hmm.
Number two, you quickly are taking control of something that's already out there and making sure that it's correct, because it displays your business hours, your website, how to make an appointment, what services you offer, even if you haven't already claimed it. So you want to claim it in order to be able to make sure the information about your business is accurate. So that's number one.
Wow. Why would someone
Number
claim
two,
that? My question is, why would someone else be claiming your business on there? And what does that do for them?
it's probably a nefarious thing, to be
Uh-oh.
frank, if somebody else claimed it, or maybe they don't know what they were doing. But I wouldn't say that piece of it happens very
Okay,
often,
okay.
but a lot of information gets auto-populated either by your customers or by Google making some guesses. So you want to make sure that information is accurate.
Okay.
And the more that you use it, the more features are unlocked by Google as you're using it.
Okay. Sorry to
And it's
interrupt you.
free. Yo,
Oh,
you're good.
wow.
That's the craziest part. It's free. You don't have to spend any money towards that.
Okay.
So, number two would be your website. And I know that seems super basic, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't have a website. And if you don't want to go down that path, that's fine. But there's a lot of advantages to having your own website.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't have to be necessarily over the top or complicated or anything technically complex,
Mm-hmm.
but having that place to park your business and to have a place to pour out your thoughts and share with your community and the patients that you're serving who you are and what you stand for is incredibly valuable.
Right. I mean,
So
yeah.
if you do nothing else, do those two things.
Yeah. I mean, I
Right.
feel like unless you have been a mom, pa, dental practice that's been around for 30 years and like, your spouse or a family member who has been going there for so long just says, go to Dr. So-and-so, will take care of you, that might be the only occasion in which I might not even need to look at their website, to see what they're all about. Right. But if I'm like
Right.
if I'm, in the market for a new dental practice to go and be a patient at, I'm going to need a little bit of reassurance that they, know what they're doing. Right. Like
Yeah.
some reviews would go a long way for me personally. Seeing what kind of services they offer, what type of insurances they accept, and seeing who the dentist is, like their face and the staff, and seeing, a bright smile and, hey, let me take care of you. Oh, that makes me feel nice, So
Right.
I agree that that's extremely important. Thank you.
You mentioned the keyword of reviews, and your Google reviews live within Google My Business.
Mm-hmm.
So if nothing else, you want to claim it for that.
Right. Okay.
I,
That makes sense.
I was just going to say, first few minutes of the interview, and we already have 2 call to actions for doctors to do,
Oh, I love it.
which would be get a website started and claim your business on Google. So that's great.
Google My Business.
Yeah.
So, what other key elements, or what key elements should dentists focus on when developing their practice website to improve patient engagement and conversion rates? I know we just talked about the importance of having one, but let's say that you have one, and what are some of those important aspects to improve patient engagement and conversion?
Sure. Well, you guys are here being industry leaders and thought leaders in a different format with a podcast. But your website, so if you are a dentist and perhaps you're passionate about a certain procedure, or maybe nobody else in your town does that particular procedure, you have a built-in platform in which you can share your thoughts, your feelings, what best practices are, what to expect in the form of a blog. Blogging got a really bad connotation, I would say, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, when it was people just writing whatever they thought without a lot of research behind it. But truly, blogging is what's going to differentiate yourself as a practice and as an industry leader. Because there's only so many different times that you can write about a dental cleaning and a service that you offer. So I would utilize blogging. I would also utilize call to actions, or CTAs, within your site. So figuring out how to ask people in a million different ways on the same page to take an action. Because if you are presenting somebody with a void of information, but not necessarily the next step to take in the form of calling to make an appointment, or maybe even better, you have an online scheduling platform that you can integrate with your website, and they don't even have to pick up the phone and call. So doing those things are going to be incredibly valuable in building your patient base.
Right. Thank you. I mean, I feel like for me personally, having an online, having the ability as a patient to schedule something online without having to call somebody, I think it's just the generation, just the times that we live in. A lot of people, if they can avoid talking to someone on the phone, they will. I love talking to people. That's why I'm here. But sometimes I'm busy and I'm like, just give me the convenience of just clicking, set an appointment so I can, move on with my day instead of having to call, maybe them not answer, or call, be put on hold, and then be like, yes, okay, yeah, right? I totally agree with that. Thank you.
Sure. And if at midnight is the time that you have available to schedule an appointment, they're not going to answer your phone call anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
And you don't have to have a complex system for this. You can even just utilize the form feature that's within your website and offer people, just say, hey, does morning, afternoon, or evening work better? And they can fill out the form, and you can call, text, or email them back.
There you go. That's awesome as well. That's a great alternative.
Yes. So mentioned in your intro, you are a specialist in SEO, which stands for Search Engine Optimization. Am I getting that right? Search engine?
You got it.
Sweet. Okay, I was nervous about that. Can you explain what SEO is to our listeners, and how can dental practices effectively utilize SEO and local SEO to attract new patients and improve their visibility in search engine results?
Sure. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, like you said, but in a very basic form, it's the free way to get ahead with marketing. And besides building a website, you don't have to spend any money. It is not a pay to play situation. Now, we could go down a rabbit trail of different speculations on that, but the tried and true definition is that is free visibility online. And it's not just Google. A lot of people think search engines and they think Google, but also Bing and Yahoo are big players in the space. So it's incredibly important not to lose sight of those as well.
Okay.
So if everybody had the question or had the answer to the question, hey, how do I rank higher on Google? There wouldn't be a need for an SEO specialist. However, nobody really knows the answer. There are some very good guesses, and there are some very good
Does Google even
leaders
know the
in
answer?
The industry. I don't think so.
They created, an algorithm that they're like, we'll see how this one works. Who knows?
So, but back to the blogging piece of it, Google rewards websites heavily with if they see that they're making frequent updates. So there's only so many times you can change a picture or add text to your homepage. And that's where establishing yourself as an industry
Mm-hmm.
leader, either in your community or in a specialty, is really going to make the difference. A million years ago, when I was really, really into SEO, I listened to a lecture that really changed my life, which was Google doesn't consider you to be an expert in anything until you have 5 pieces of supporting evidence around that. So
Wow.
let's say you're talking about dental implants. You would want to write a piece about what are dental implants, and then how much do they cost, and then um, what do I need to know about it? And then you are establishing yourself with different pieces of content that you can link back and forth to
Mm,
within your website.
right.
And that's how you are establishing yourself as an industry expert.
Would you recommend like having a different blog article written for each of those
Topic.
specific implant topics? And once you have 5,
Yes.
then Google's like, oh, dang, this person actually knows what they're talking about. Let's drive a ton of traffic to their website.
But you also don't want to just leave them hanging out by themselves. A website page needs a friend. So if you're writing about what is dental implants, then you need to link it back and forth with, hey, here's an article about how much it cost, or here's an article about what to expect. And that way, Google knows that it's not just a article floating out in space.
Wow. So you want to create links from the different articles to each other. You know, for the most effective way, would you recommend, you know, like I imagine like you're reading an article and then one of the letters is like blue and underlined, or sorry, one of the words, right?
Yep.
And it's like, you know, brings you to one of the 5, you know, blogs that you have about the implant topic. And then in that same article that you wrote, you've got other links that bring you to the other 4. So like, is that what you mean by tying them all together?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Because the way that Google's bots crawl your website, think of it as a spider web. The more ways that you have for Google to follow a path on your website within one page, the better, because they're going to follow those links first, and then they're going to move on to other pages.
Gotcha. Wow. I mean, the more you know, this kind of stuff is so interesting. And, you know, I feel like it's got a shroud of mystery surrounding it. And I mean, I'm just grateful that people like you are willing to come on here and be like, hey, you know, this is actually what's going on, because a lot of dentists have zero clue. So thank you for enlightening us a little bit on such a confusing topic, you know, but it doesn't seem so confusing anymore. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So in your experience, you know, with social media platforms, what are the most beneficial things for dental practices? You know, what strategies can they use to build a stronger online presence using social media? Do you think that social media is all that powerful? You know, which platforms on social media do you think like they should focus on? You know, stuff like that.
So my answer is going to be multi-part, and I hope that you'll hang with me for it.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to use any of them, you need to be consistent. I would not recommend deciding to do, I'm going to do Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and I'm going to do it all at once, because inevitably you fail at that. And then people who Google you, and maybe your Facebook page comes up and the last time you posted was 1998 or whatever, they're going to just assume that your practice is closed because they haven't seen any action from you.
Gotcha.
I think that Facebook is incredibly important, especially if you don't have the time to keep up with blogging like I recommended, or maybe you don't have a website and you want to use your Facebook profile as a stand-in for that. That is great. But I'm thinking of a practice that we just recently took over marketing for, and the biggest issue was they hadn't posted since May and it's January. And if I was a potential patient, I would think, oh, well, maybe they're just not around. So you need to create a strategy.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes the best way to create a strategy is to sit down and spend a few hours and map out Mondays, we're going to talk about X, Y, or Z. And then every Monday, hey, I'm going to talk about these
Uh-huh.
things, and so on. You can also schedule within Facebook's native scheduling tools. So if you have a Sunday evening and you're vegging on the couch and you have time to do the scheduling, do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about it when you're faced with a Monday and you know that you have to post.
That's huge.
I also think that TikTok, as much as people roll their eyes and shake their heads about it, is a great way to gain traction quickly.
Uh-huh.
However, it's not necessarily going to bring in new patients unless you're offering something totally unique. I'm not sure that somebody's going to travel across the country for a cleaning unless you're just extraordinary at it. But if you're wanting to become somebody that is a thought leader, that would be a really great place to become recognized and pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As funny as it sounds, TikTok has actually been one of the platforms that for us has gained a ton of traction. Yeah. I'm just saying relative to other platforms. It's funny how sometimes the place that you would least expect, traction, it happens. So yeah, no, it's really interesting. I feel like, would you do you think that other social media platforms have that scheduling tool, the same one that Facebook has, where you can kind of schedule content to be released on, certain days so that you don't have to sit there every single day and do it?
Sure. I believe that Instagram does. I'm not sure about X. I mean, I'm never going to call it X. Let's just call it Twitter. But I do know that you can relatively inexpensively, and sometimes in some cases for free, utilize Hootsuite or other scheduling platforms, and that will let you see all of your social media platforms at once and schedule at the same time. So I would do something like that if you really felt like, hey, I need to get in front of everybody on every platform available.
Yeah, Hootsuite. I didn't even know that existed.
Hootsuite.
I mean, hey, you just taught me something important. I'm going to be, that'll save me probably hours of work a week. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, let's be real. Unless you just have it in front of your face, we are so ADHD and all over the place and have a million things going on. I have to sit down and focus my time and shut off my other screens and go, okay, Sunday night, I'm scheduling these out, because it seems like such a fluffy piece of your business that it doesn't feel very important. But then if you're faced with having a blank Facebook page or something that you haven't posted on for months and months, that really could be impacting your bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's extremely important. Setting time aside, like you said, to just do it, because it's hard to know how tangible that time is, right? In terms of actual financial benefit, right? So like a lot of us are like, well, who knows how useful it really is. And it's hard to see the results, or hard to know unless you're tracking, like whenever you get a new patient, how did you find us? Social media or whatever else. And then you could know, right? A metric that could benefit you actually that could show the benefit of you doing a social media advertisement. Absolutely.
And along those lines, for the love of everything, if you ask people, and please ask people when they make an appointment, hey, where did you hear about us? Don't just let them say the internet, because my 70-year-old mother, God love her, even if she saw you on Facebook, she's going to say I sell it on the internet. So get specific. Because people just lump those things together.
Absolutely.
So, digging more into that, as you were saying, you want to ensure that your ads are actually working. So a doctor goes out there, tries to get his practice more known, so starts posting on those social medias that you mentioned. How can a dental practice track and measure the success of their marketing efforts to ensure they are driving growth? I know you just mentioned having your patients actually say where they found your practice from. Are there any other ways you can do that?
Yes, absolutely. Maybe this is my favorite topic. However, I will say, asking somebody to remember where they saw you is probably the least reliable way of tracking. There are a million different ways that you can do this. One of the easiest, or at least in my mind, is to utilize something called a UTM code.
Mm,
So if you are a little bit more advanced in your website skills and you run something on your website and you know that you only posted it to Facebook, you would go into a UTM code generator and put in the URL where you're sending people. And at the very end of that, it's going to say, what's the platform? So on this, you would say Facebook. Let's use Facebook. You'd say Facebook. What was the campaign? Perhaps you were running a new patient special. So I would say new patient. And then it's the spring of 2025 is when you're running it. So then the next piece would be spring 2025. And from there, it generates a code for you that is an entire URL that you stick inside of your advertisement. And you know, if somebody clicks on that and got to that page via that long URL with crazy letters at the end, that they did it through your campaign that you were running.
wow. Wow.
Now, that's maybe the most advanced. If
That's
you
really
are
cool.
saying it is really cool, and it really gives you a lot of data to go off of, and you know, hey, I know 100% that this person only saw it on this because this is the website address that I gave them. But maybe you don't have that sort of insight or knowledge, and that's fine. There are other ways to do it. You could create your own page. Like maybe you clone a page and you change the URL just slightly without doing a whole UTM, and you don't put it in your top navigation. And so you know that people are only going to be able to find that page unless you give them the link. You need to come up with different ways to present your information in a unique way that you know, okay, this new patient special is only offered to my Instagram users. Or this tooth whitening special, I've only put it on Google Ads. And that way, you know, in an easy, less technical way, that that's how you're tracking it. There are other situations if you're running a Google ad campaign. So you're paying now, we're not in the SEO world, where they do a call campaign. So they will track the calls that are made to you from that ad. And you can see that directly there, complete with the phone number and sometimes a recording. So you can also hear, okay, is my receptionist saying and doing the right things?
Yeah, keep them accountable.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you just shot off like freaking 3-4 incredible ways that a practice can track, you know, their campaigns, can track, you know, where certain, you know, if they're running a campaign across multiple platforms, you know, knowing which leads are coming from which platform, and also like if you've got the call component attached, you know, there's so many incredible ways that practices can see how effective their marketing is and maybe where they should be focusing more effort on, or where improvements could, you know, be made. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. That brings me to my next question. So what advice, you know, would you give dentists who are just trying to implement, that are just now trying to implement digital marketing strategies?
Sure.
Like where should they focus their initial efforts? Like let's say they do have a website, sure, you know, because that's pretty elementary. But if they don't, obviously that's number one. And like you just mentioned, the Google My Business, you know, those are you know the really important ones. Let's say that they've done that. What would be the next step that you would recommend for them?
Okay. Well, let's say that they are wanting to do some direct mail, because I know in dentistry it is still something that is working pretty well.
Yeah.
But how do you know that you're getting any ROI on that?
Right. It's hard.
I would put a QR code with a link to one of those unique pages that I was talking about on that card. And then you know, okay, they're going to fill out a form when they get to this page. And that form is only available to people with that URL. So again, you don't have to get super technical, but you can put some safeguards in place in order to be able to track well. Because I mean, and here's the other thing. If you are working with a marketing agency, it is incredibly important to say, hey, this lead, yes, my phone is ringing, but these leads are not what I was hoping for them to be.
Right.
Because I tell clients all day long, I can make your phone ring, but I have no idea unless you share with me if they booked, if they were a quality lead, or if they were what you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a website and if you have a Google My Business and say, I don't want to do direct mail, maybe the next piece is figuring out, and I know I keep going back to this, but figuring out a topic that you can become an expert in and really write about it and showcase who you are. Because anymore, I've noticed it more and more as I've been in this particular role, there are dentists on every corner. So what is it that you're going to do that sets you apart from your next door neighbor that's a dentist?
Yeah.
You need to find your niche in the space and do the things that are going to make you stand out from the crowd. Right. And on that point, I would also say be willing to be pretty brutally honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at the people that you would like to have their volume of patients and take a really close look at what they're doing and what they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're less than or not as good as, but if they're excelling in a field or in a space that you would like to be alongside of them, what is it that you're not doing? And the other really important thing is to humanize yourself. Yes, you are the doctor with a white coat on, and oftentimes people get white coat syndrome. So share about yourself and really let your patients and the community know who you are.
Right.
And same with your staff. You are in the room and in your patient's area and space way less than your staff is. So let the patients and the community get to know them as well.
I love that. That's incredibly valuable. I think, humanizing yourself is something that I feel like a lot of patients value because they do get nervous, or it is a hard thing sometimes to schedule an appointment and walk in, and they might want a little reassurance, like I mentioned, going on your website, seeing what you look like. Do you look like a nice person? Are you smiling? Do you have your staff on there? Do they look like nice people? And let's hear a little bit about yourself. The humanization part of it, like you mentioned, is really great. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And staying on this topic, we just discussed what a doctor should focus on when it comes to marketing. But to switch it up, what should a doctor avoid when executing their marketing strategies, or common pitfalls that a dental practice may have?
Okay. So this is going to be less of what is going to be on your website that you should avoid, but I'm going to tell you the first thing that you need to keep in mind is if a company comes to you and says, hey, I can get you on page 1 of Google in 2 weeks. If you don't put on your tennis shoes and run as fast as you can in the opposite direction, I'm going to be very disappointed. The reality is we cannot control what Google does. We have a lot of really good insight and intel and educated guesses, but we do not know, and there are no such thing as guarantees in digital marketing. So that's number 1. Number 2, I have seen this over and over again as we're taking over marketing for general practices. They have no idea who built their website. They have no idea how to get any of the data. They don't know where their domain was registered. By the way, your domain is like www.bestdentist.com. You need to be the owner of that, and you also need to know where it lives.
Right.
So that if somebody comes along and makes a new website of you or for you, you know how to pass them that information.
Yeah.
And then number 3, this is, gosh, I hope I don't get like eggs thrown at me by my digital marketing friends.
I can't speak for them, but you won't get any eggs from us.
If you are working with a company who will not share with you your numbers and your raw data, please run, because the data is yours. The information about your website and your practice is yours. The information on the money that you're spending for advertising is also yours. So even if you don't know how to decipher it, you need to be in control of it. You need to know at all times how much money has been spent on your behalf for advertising. You need to know, okay, yes, you say that I rank number 1 for 50 keywords, but does that mean I rank number 1 for 50 keywords that say Dr. Allison Taylor? I should rank number 1 for that because that's my name.
Yeah.
And if somebody Googles that, I should come up for that. The keywords that make a difference are best dentist in, and then your town, or maybe it's, things like that. And then if people are stuck on impressions, and impressions means the number of times that you've been seen, and clicks, that's great. But what are they doing after they click?
Right.
Because if your impressions are high and your clicks are high, but maybe you had 5 people fill out a form or make a phone call to your office to schedule an appointment, then there's a disconnect between the ad that's running or the organic listing and your website.
Like there's a problem with the funnel.
So don't get caught up in the vanity. I call them the vanity metrics.
Okay. So just to recap, what would be those vanity metrics again? One more time. Sorry.
Impressions. So maybe they're excited because 1 million people saw your link where you can click and see your website. Okay, that's awesome. Did they click? And then the next thing is, did they do anything once they clicked?
Gotcha. Okay. So vanity metrics, like just views, right? Just like, okay, whoop-de-doo, 1,000 people saw your stuff, but like no one engaged. No one did anything about it. So that was pretty, I don't know how useful that was. Not as useful as, the alternative. Right. Okay.
Right. Wouldn't you rather have 50 people click and all 50 people booked and then your schedule is full? Because 1,000 people clicking and not doing anything is not very useful.
Oh, I agree. Allison, we're so grateful for you, coming on here and enlightening us, because we're just mere dentists. We, as incredible as some dentists are at all of this stuff, I would argue that the majority of us are not. And so experts like you coming on here and enlightening us on all of these important topics, what to avoid, what to try and do, is so helpful. And, as we come to a close, I would just ask, is there any way that someone could reach out to you with a question, if it was, advice, or if they could somehow get connected with you or someone that you recommend to work with them about, improving their practice performance online? Is there any way that they could reach you?
Sure, I would love that. Obviously, I'm a digital nerd, so I'll probably talk your ear off about it. But you can email me. It's Allison, 2 L's, ALLISON, at jetsetimplants.com. And we can talk digital marketing. And, I'm happy to take a look at what your current setup is and make recommendations. And I'll be the first person to tell you, hey, you're in a good spot. Don't change anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. This has been absolutely incredible. And for all of you, here watching, we hope that you have enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Revolution Dentistry Podcast. If you're finding value here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're here every week to help you grow. We'll see you next time. Thank you.